Wow, just look around this room. Charles, I hope you're taking all of this in. All of these people here tonight are here to honor you and what you have done for the Jewish people. And of course, belatedly, as due to COVID, we had to postpone this gala multiple times. They are also here to celebrate your 90th birthday. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of tonight's co-chairs, Rita Bronfman and Denise Stern, welcome to tonight's event honoring Charles Bronfman. Thank you all for being here and for your support of the amazing organization Charles co-founded 22 years ago, Birthright Israel. Through your generosity, we have raised over $40 million in multi-year commitments in honor of Charles and in support of sending tens of thousands of young adults on their birthright journey. Everyone here tonight is very special. I do want to specifically recognize a few special guests. Dr. Miriam Adelson. Gilad Erdan, Permanent Representative of Israel to the United Nations. And Natan Sharansky. We are honored to have you with us tonight. Charles, in just 22 years, your vision, your passion, your dedication has provided the transformational gift of a birthright trip to over 750,000 participants from 68 countries. And your impact on the Jewish community and the state of Israel goes well beyond Birthright Israel. The lives you have touched are too many to count. We are all inspired by the incredible legacy that you have created. A challenge with planning an event like tonight was that we had too many people who wanted to speak, publicly share their admiration and their appreciation for you. So we did have to limit the number, otherwise we would have been here all night. And there are a number of people who could not be here in person but didn't want to be left out. So they sent letters or recorded messages which we will see throughout the evening. Let me start with the following letter from the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Dear Charles, in every community, there are leaders whose vision, passion, and generosity of spirit change the course of people's lives for generations to come. Charles, you are one of those leaders. The gala held in your honor this evening is a testament to the transformational impact you have made in the Jewish community, here and around the world. Your commitment and inspiration have created priceless moments and forged lasting bonds between young Jewish Americans and their brothers and sisters in Israel. Above all, you have empowered the next generation to change our world for the better. You are the living embodiment of that timeless Jewish concept, L'dor v'dor. Mazel tov on this well-deserved honor. As your friends and family celebrate this milestone birthday, I wish you much health and happiness in the years ahead. Sincerely, Joseph Biden. Yeah. And in a moment, we will watch recorded messages from the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, the Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Israel, Yair Lapid, and the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. But before we turn to these leaders, I would like to share my personal thoughts with Charles. Being around and observing someone like you, who has made and continues to make so many extraordinary impacts on our world, has been such a privilege. What is even more impressive is how humble you are about all that you've accomplished. And you're not resting on your laurels. 22 years later, you remain actively involved with Birthright Israel, and you continue to provide wise counsel. We all aspire to make a difference in the world in our own way. but few have succeeded in having the incredibly broad impact that you have had. You've been a true inspiration to me, and each time I'm with you, I leave more motivated and feeling that I have to work even harder. Thank you and happy birthday. Now, please turn your attention to the screens to watch these very special messages.
My dear friend Charles, you know I love you, and you know you're one of the best. And you know as well that the Jewish people in the state of Israel are grateful to you for what you've done throughout the years. I still vividly recall when you came with Michael Steinhardt to Ehud Barak's office as Prime Minister to lay down the vision of what became later on to be known as Birthright Taglit, one of the greatest enterprises in the Jewish world since then. And you have contributed so much in so many fields to strengthen the dialogue between Israel and world Jewry, to improve Israeli society, to empower people of underprivileged communities, to vouch for peace and for democracy and for universal values of humankind, most importantly, Jewish values of humankind. So I want to wish you only good health. Keep on doing what you're doing. Go from strength to strength. Kisses to Rita and to you and to your entire family. Looking forward to seeing you soon in Yerushalayim, in the President's home. And again, on behalf of the people of Israel, Toda Rabah. Thank you so much, dear friend. Be'atzlacha and good health.
Shalom, my friends. I'd like to wish a very happy birthday to Charles Bronfman, a true friend of Israel and of the Jewish people. Since the founding of Taglit Birthright, over 750,000 people have taken part, including over 100,000 Israelis. That's truly astounding. This program has served as a bridge between Israel and our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, and has done so much good. It unites us, it connects us. Charles, thanks to your work throughout the years, so many young people are connecting to Israel, connecting their roots. As you reach the honorable age of 90, I want to thank you for all that you've done for the state of Israel and for the Jewish people throughout your entire life, and all that you'll continue to do, because we've just started. May you go from strength to strength. Toda Rabah.
Dear Charles, well, the first 90 years were fine, but now the real challenge begins. Seriously, I can't think of anyone else who in this stage of life is as needed as you are. And being needed is the biggest trophy one can give you. We need you because all those things that are being performed for the Jewish people, for the next generation, for the future of the Jewish people, will not be performed without you. So we are not only thankful in your 19th birthday, but also hopeful. In behalf of the Israeli government, in behalf of the Israeli people, we congratulate you for this birthday.
Hello everyone, bonjour à tous. I'm so pleased to join you to honor a very special Canadian, Charles Bronfman. From bringing Major League Baseball to Canada, to building proud Canadian identity with the Heritage Minutes, Charles has been honored at the highest levels in Canada for his lasting contributions to our country. And, like his father before him, Charles has improved the world through his philanthropy, particularly on behalf of and within the Jewish community. Charles, on this very special birthday, thank you for everything you do to build a better world. Yes.
My name is Tom Stern, and I'm the immediate past chairman of the Birthright Israel Foundation. Thank you. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for your generosity to Birthright Israel and for joining in this very special celebration of my dear friend and Birthright Israel co-founder, Sir Charles Bronfman. Sir Charles, Thank you. Congratulations on this very auspicious occasion. As you and so many others know, I went to Israel for the very first time in 2009 at the age of 47. Well, very much a secular Jew, I bonded with the people, land, and culture of Israel in a way that profoundly changed my life. Given my own experience, it quickly became obvious to me how Birthright Israel can and does change the Jewish future, one Jewish soul at a time. With the overt rise of anti-Semitism around the globe, and especially on college campuses, this program is more important now than ever before. Tonight, while we are primarily celebrating you, Sir Charles, I want to extend my deep appreciation to both you and Michael Steinhardt for giving this incredible gift to the Jewish people. It's been an honor and a privilege for me to serve these last 5 years, long time, as the chairman of the Birthright Israel Foundation. Thank you, Sir Charles, for giving me the opportunity to serve in this role, to work tirelessly to make a difference to the Jewish people, and to help ensure that every young Jewish adult who wants to go on Birthright Israel has the opportunity to do so. To you, my dear friend, I want to say Mazel Tov and Toda Rabbah. You are an amazing human being who has played a vital role in engaging and embracing next generation Jewry. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to acknowledge your beautiful wife, Rita. As we all know, beside every great man is an incredible woman. Tonight especially, on behalf of everyone here, I'd like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to Rita and to my dear wife, Denise. I know intimately, and I do mean intimately, how hard both of you worked to make tonight so unbelievably special. I'd like to end my remarks this evening by sharing one of my favorite quotes from Sir Winston Churchill. You make a living by what you earn. You make a life by what you give. On this basis, Sir Charles, you have lived a very, very rich life. Happy birthday. May you live to at least 120, and may you continue to enrich the lives of the Jewish people. Denise and I love you, dear friend.
So, good evening, everyone. It is really wonderful to be here together again. And it's exciting to celebrate Charles Bronfman, our esteemed co-founder of Birthright Israel, which you, Charles, built together with Michael Steinhardt. Charles, in my opinion, you're a giant, and I'm pretty sure on the opinion of all of the people here. With the creation of Birthright Israel, you transformed the Jewish world, especially in the United States. I cannot imagine what our world would look like without Birthright Israel. Charles, it has been an honor and a privilege to work with you all these years, during which I witnessed your continued dedication to the cause. Tonight, you will hear tributes from many of your fans, and if given the chance, I'm sure everyone in this room would want to show you how loved you are. Not only are young Jews going to Israel on Birthright Israel trips, but on these trips they meet Israelis, especially Mifgash soldiers. The Mifgash exemplified the incredible connection Birthright Israel builds between young Jewish adults from all over the world in Israel. These Mifgash soldiers have come here tonight to thank you on behalf of the Israelis who have participated in Birthright Israel. And now I have the pleasure to introduce you to 9 IDF officers who have participated in Mifgash together with our Birthright young adults. As I introduce the Mifgash participants, each one please stand up. I do ask the audience not to take any photos, please. And I ask everyone to please hold your applause, and we will acknowledge these brave soldiers all at the end. So we start off with Captain Barak, R&D officer in the Engineering Corps. No. We'll give them hand claps at the end, please. Major Sar, commander of the elite ICT company at the Intelligence Corps. Major Oshri, head of the Tactical Vehicle Unit. Lieutenant Yuval, fighter in the Intelligence Corps. Lieutenant Tammy, Chief of Staff to the Deputy of the ID spokesperson. And Lieutenant Leahy, officer in the Iron Dome anti-rocket battery. Lieutenant Itai, platoon commander in the Armed Corps. And Lieutenant Colonel Mital, head of the medical supplies. And Major Rom, commander of the Special Missions Training. Major Rom will now share a few words on behalf of the Mifgash participants.
Charles, on behalf of 120,000 Mifgash participants, we would like to thank you for being a visionary pioneer in co-founding Birthright Israel. We as Israelis have discovered our brothers and sisters. In doing so, we are part of this incredible human bridge between Israel and our Jewish family around the world. We are creating a stronger Jewish future together because of this experience. On behalf of my Israeli friends here, thank you. You are a true visionary and an inspiration to all of us. We salute you, Charles.
Thank you, Ron. And now please join me in a standing ovation. We applaud and thank you for your service in defense of Israel and the Jewish people. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank our 2 co-chairs, Rita Bronfman and Denise Stern, who have worked tirelessly to put this beautiful evening together. I love you. You're both incredible. And of course, a big thank to all of our staff. Truly a job well done. And now I'm going to be doing the amoitzi so that you can all start eating. But the beautiful part about it all is that it's the first time that I've ever said a moitzi in New York, looking at Jerusalem at the back there. That is a beautiful feeling. Thank you very much. I don't know that that's going to happen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
For those who don't know me, I'm Gidi Mark, International CEO of Birthright Israel. I'm also the first employee of Birthright Israel, the product of a chance encounter with Yossi Beilin here in New York back in 1997. Charles, the impact of this child you have brought into this world alongside Michael Steinhardt, hi Michael, spans not one but many generations. Participants, their parents, grandparents, and even their children. We see the first children coming on Birthright now. Many of them came actually in the last 2 years during COVID, And one of them told me, I came over because my mother, who was amongst the first participants of Birthright, told me, this is your rite of passage, you cannot miss it. So I came. We impact not only multiple generations, but also multiple nations with countries such as Armenia, Macedonia, Greece, Ireland, Cuba, and just recently, South Korea and Kosovo, seeking our advice in creating their own birthright. They all are doubtful whether they can succeed in such an endeavor because they do not think it is possible for them to find their own courageous leaders with a vision and willingness to act. The Korean delegation told me that out of millions in their diasporas, they cannot find even one Charles. They cannot find even one Michael. They cannot find one like Mary Adelson or Sheldon Adelson. They told me, let alone people that are like you, people over here, philanthropists, who are filling this hall tonight, or not to speak about the 40,000 supporters that Birthright Israel has. And, of course, people that stepped forward with the magnitude, huge magnitude of historic size, like Sheldon that we miss so much, and Mary Adelson that is here tonight. Charles, your soul is woven into our story. Your love of our shared past and passion for our thriving future, your broad vision and pluralistic approach, your demand for the highest standards and patience to see them being realized. These traits are embedded in the very core of Birthright Israel, and they have transformed this project into the single most important Jewish educational enterprise in the 21st century. None of this would have been imaginable without you. I and the entire Birthright Israel family are committed to pushing your vision forward for many more generations to come, and after 2 difficult years, we are finally back in changing the lives of tens of thousands in Israel this summer. This is your legacy, Charles, but let us hear it straight from those who experienced it firsthand. It is my pleasure now to turn the stage over to our participants from then and from now.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Isabel Allard, and last summer I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to travel to Israel with Birthright. To give some background on myself, I was raised in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I was lucky to belong to an amazing synagogue, but I craved a larger Jewish community. That was one of the reasons that led me to the University of Michigan, where I'm a rising junior in the business school. When I got to Michigan, one of the first things that I did was apply to the Tamid Group, a business club that consults for Israeli businesses, which exposed me to an amazing community of students who were passionate about Israel and truly made me feel at home on campus. Yet, as the conflict in Israel intensified last May, I witnessed anti-Semitism that I'd never seen before. Statements addressing the conflict that were sent out by our central student government and even the Business School Council targeted Tamid and equated supporting Israel to supporting apartheid. Our university rock was vandalized with the words, "Fuck Israel," and messages started on social media telling Jewish students to leave campus. Speaking with my non-Jewish friends, I realized that most people had no idea what was actually happening, so they believed everything that they saw on social media. I believe that education is the key to solving almost any issue, and while I felt tempted to think that as just one person, I couldn't do anything to help, I decided that it was my responsibility to educate myself on the conflict so that I could then educate others. That is where Birthright comes in. I'd always wanted to go, but then COVID hit. Amidst everything going on at school, I saw an Instagram ad that trips were back up and running, and I signed up to go that day. My goal was to see what was happening in Israel firsthand so I could come back and truly be an advocate. My Jewish mom and grandmother were a little bit worried, but I knew that there was no group more trustworthy and experienced than Birthright to get me there and back safely. There was no way I was letting fear of terrorists stop me from living my life, so in July, I got on the plane. And I started to experience what I call the Birthright magic the second I landed. What Birthright does so exceptionally well is foster a sense of true belonging. I'd only met my group the day before at JFK, but instantly, the 12 of us felt like we'd known each other forever. I'd been to Israel once before when I was 14 with my grandparents, but coming back with Birthright, it felt like more of a homecoming than a tour of a foreign country. The whole trip revolved around finding out what Israel meant to us. We had amazingly candid conversations about our Jewish identities, experiences at home with anti-Semitism, and what we wanted our relationship with Israel to look like going forward. One of the most special parts were the 3 IDF soldiers that spent the entire trip with us. Not only did they show us the best places to go and to eat, it was eye-opening to spend 10 days with kids our age who like to go out and have fun and joke around, yet they spent their days manning the Iron Dome while I was studying in college. And when I got on the plane to come back to the US after 10 truly incredible days, I wasn't sad because I knew I would be back, but I also knew that I had accomplished my goal. I came back to Michigan with a newfound sense of what Israel meant to me and the information and education to stand tall on campus the next time anti-Semitism reared its head. And unfortunately, it has. The Fuck Israel appeared once more on the Rock on Yom Kippur, and support for the BDS movement is at an all-time high on campus, with our student newspaper equating the situation in Ukraine to that of the Israeli conflict. But more so than ever, I feel proud to be Jewish and proud to be a supporter of Israel. I wholly credit Birthright with imparting in me the passion and the courage to stand up, to approach hard conversations with the tool to be an advocate rather than staying silent. And I will forever be grateful to Birthright for enabling me to do so. College campuses all over the country are full of anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiment right now. And it is sad and it's scary. It can make you feel powerless. But what I learned from that past summer is the transformative power of a Birthright trip in combating this. As we speak, dozens of my friends at Michigan are on Birthright trips thanks to your generous support. And in a few weeks, I'll have the amazing opportunity to join them in Tel Aviv, where I'll be interning for 8 weeks at an impact investing firm through Onward. I'll be living and working alongside hundreds of college sophomores going through Birthright Excel or Onward. And among all of the terrible things happening across American campuses, it fills me with so much joy and inspiration to know that a new generation of passionate, smart, and determined peers will have the chance to fall in love with Israel this summer and come back with the same inspiration to make a difference that I did. Ultimately, that is how we will make change, but we can only do so with the support of generous donors like yourselves. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you on behalf of myself and everyone else that will have the opportunity to go, and especially to the Bronfman family for your incredible vision. Have a great evening, and thank you again.
Can't believe I found this.
I wrote this in grad school. Someone at Brandeis reached out to me and they said, you received a scholarship for your master's degree program, you're about to graduate, would you like to write a letter to your donor? And I was like, sure, absolutely, who's my donor? And they said, it's Charles Bronfman. I couldn't believe it. Only, I guess that was 6 years before that, I had gone on this Birthright trip, which I knew began with Charles Bronfman's vision, and I was more than happy to write that letter and be able to say just how grateful I was. It's just a reminder of how much one person can impact someone's life so completely. So what can you say? But thank you.
Dear Charles Bronfman,
Though you've never met me, the impact of your support, both through Birthright and Hornstein, has literally changed my life in every way.
the trip has left an impression on me which will last a lifetime.
Because of you, I met my husband, and I have 2 beautiful daughters. We like to say that we're the very first Birthright couple. We met on January 4th, 2000 in Newark Airport, and it's all because of you and Mr. Steinhardt.
After applying 4 times, I was finally accepted to take a life-altering trip on Birthright in 2012. This was my first introduction to Israel and my own Jewish identity.
Wow, 20 years flies. I guess there's been a lot packed into that 20 years.
I feel like I have a deep understanding post-Birthright on my culture and how I identify with Israel, how I identify with my Jewish community.
Well, when I walked into the airport, I met my future husband within 5 minutes.
There was something about Stephanie that I was completely attracted to right from the beginning.
It changed who I think I was as a Jewish person in America.
If it wasn't for Birthright, I wouldn't have a beautiful wife in Stephanie and 2 unbelievably beautiful kids. Birthright Israel, to me, it's a destination that could lead to so many other destinations in your life.
20 years ago, when I was planning on leaving for my Birthright Israel trip, I had a long talk with my father. He said, "You're the first person in our family to ever go to Israel. And if you come home from this 10-day experience and I ask you about your trip and you just tell me it's awesome, I'm gonna be disappointed." So he said, "Pamela, you're a writer. So why don't you get a journal and keep track of moments and memories and thoughts?" I haven't read it in a really long time. Do you know what it's like to always have a childhood dream? Something of major substance. Something you have made a part of you. For me, that was going to Israel. My religion had been a top priority in my life. It's who I am. It shapes my family, our beliefs, our actions, and our relationships. Though I have always been a very active Jewish person in Jewish organizations and education, it wasn't enough to make me complete. There was all of this talk about Israel, and I needed to see it for myself.
Prior to Birthright, I really felt like I was a passive Jew. I just was self-identifiable as Jewish, but that was it.
I don't think I really thought much about it. I was bat mitzvahed, but it really didn't play a huge role in my life.
But being on this bus with other people that were equally just as excited as I was to dive deep and find out more about ourselves, that was the first time I felt like I was connecting to a group of people where we could really share intellectual conversations with each other about who we were and what we could take from this trip to better the world.
I learned to enjoy my Judaism, to go to synagogue not just on the days that I'm required to go. I mean, you're never required to go, but I thought of it as that. I think now for my children, the synagogue is just such a big part of their lives, and I think that's what's really important.
When we stood in that auditorium in Jerusalem, and there were 4,000 students, and Charles and Michael got up on the stage and talked about being able to raise your hand wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and say, "I am Jewish, and I'm proud, and I love it." That is something that is my core. That is who I am and how I feel.
I cannot believe how far I've come in 8 years, and it was all because of this trip that I went on. And now I go back to Israel every year, and I have an Israeli passport.
I don't think I fully can express to you the amount that you have changed my life by providing Birthright Israel to myself and so many other young Jews, and I really am just so thankful for your generosity.
I don't know what else to say other than thank you.
Judaism is based around the model of questions. So if I had questions 20 years ago about who I was, well, I'm still exploring 20 years later, but with a deeper sense and gratitude. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Like those you've seen on the video, I too am impacted by Birthright Israel Foundation. My experience begins in the Holy Land on the very Monday, 2018. At first, I thought I was nervous from being the only person with autism going on this trip with a bunch of strangers to Israel, the Holy Land. But when we landed, we opened up our hearts to ourselves, and most importantly, we opened up to others. Watching the sunset in Jerusalem was totally amazing, and we became really close friends. The next day, we actually met the Israeli soldiers, and we got along with them real quickly. They even showed us around their town, and they even showed us parts of the museums. And then on the following night, on a specific day, we went to the Shuk, which turned out to be an outdoor dining bar. Seriously, it was so cool, and we were actually dancing the night away as we were having the time of our lives. We all got extremely close. The women actually placed their trust in me, for I was their protector guarding a bathroom door for them because one of them was broken, so I stood on guard, for I was still their protector. No dishonesty and no dishonor doing that. And even the Israelis themselves were our protectors for 5 holy days. Also, when we were in Israel, we went to the Old Jerusalem, where we actually went to the Western Wall, and I placed a specific note on behalf of my uncle in the cracks. But when I placed my hand on the wall, it was actually totally unlike any other walls I've touched, for I was actually having a conversation with God. The next following day, we went to the Holocaust Museum. While we were heading there, we talked about our grandparents' survival, for what type of Nazi camps they were sent to. My grandma, Bubby, on my father's side of the family, went to Auschwitz, for she was going to be gassed to death in one of the gas chambers. But fortunately, she was spared, and later she was rescued. The next following day, on a specific Sunday, or a specific Monday to be precise, yeah, it was actually a Monday, because we woke up really early that day, and this was actually a memory that none of us could ever forget or leave behind. For we hiked up the Masada to the very top to watch something totally remarkable and holy. Lo and behold, the sun rose from the high mountains as we were watching God waking up from his slumber. Watching the sunrise was unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life. Israel made me see God. We did more fun there. We actually tried out the winery and the olive oil tastings. Also saw some waterfalls, did some whitewater rafting and kayaking. Slept in Bedouin tents, rode on camels. Furthermore, we opened up our hearts to God. Most importantly, I got a chance to see my loving cousin, who lives in Israel, married an Israeli woman, and made Aliyah. And what else is there to tell you? We actually did everything over there. From the very beginning, I told them that my father recently passed away 2 years before I took the trip, when we were sitting around a bonfire and sharing each other's stories. Mine was very touching to them, for it reached to others as theirs touched mine at a time. Furthermore, we ended the program with a huge, giant hug. And before I knew it, we started off as strangers, and then we became a family. So yeah, we started off the trip to the Holy Land as 3 types of people, from strangers to friends, and then from friends to family. My name is Billy Steinberg. I hope this will encourage others. Thank you, Mr. Bronfman, and happy birthday for making my trip a reality.
This very new and creative idea.
Let young people have an experience.
Then it's a dramatic idea, it's a revolutionary idea, and it either takes off or it flops.
Birthright Israel began with a challenge.
The moment of truth that Charles looks at Michael, Michael looks at Charles.
Something that we could do, and maybe there weren't many other people in the world who could do it, who could genuinely think about changing the Jewish world, making the Jewish world a better place, a deeper place, a warmer place.
He's a real visionary. He's a visionary, doesn't take no for an answer.
They decided to take the risk.
He and I had one characteristic that was comparable for the two of us, and that was that we both had the same hairdo. We were both bald as billiard balls. He knew and I knew that we were gonna be together for a long, long time as the founders of Birthright.
We didn't know whether we could get anything right, getting the participants to come, getting the funds to make it happen.
Late 80s, the 90s, we did research to find out who they were, what attracted them.
That was taking the first group of diaspora kids to Israel, that there was a little bit of magic in the air. There was a little bit of rare excitement.
I would hop on buses, I would dance with the young people. I would just be able to experience their joy, their love of Israel, of the Jewish people, and how they took this back home, their follow-up, how they brought soldiers over to be part of their communities. It was just totally amazing.
It was the talk of town in Montreal. Charles was a Montrealer, and the kids were coming back, and they were having the most extraordinary experience. It was like, you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. It was fabulous.
Young people in the diaspora got to know Israel in a way they hadn't until then.
How many of you got pressure not to come? And it was more than half. The participants said that they got pressure, but the surprise to all of us was we expected the parents. It was from faculty members and it was from colleagues.
And today, with all the issues of anti-Semitism, it's even far more relevant because it gives people the ability to know who they are, who Israel is, and to fight hate with inner strength and knowledge.
All of them said, we realize how complex this is. We realize how deeply complicated these issues are, and we want to come back and explore more.
The most incredible thing is to see when he gets letters of thank you, of people saying how it's changed their lives.
It's time that the Jewish world will honor Charles as an outstanding citizen of the Jewish people.
Your work in Israel, your work in Canada for the history and heritage of Canadians, and your work here for better health care, better education, and a fairer society goes on, and may you enjoy many, many years of the fruits of that hard labor.
It's an honor to honor somebody who's always honoring everybody else every day of his life.
I want to thank you for this program, for your support, for your partnership, and all that you are to the Jewish people all over the world.
Charles, this is to you. I love you, and you're one of my great heroes.
It's been a pleasure, Charles, being your partner.
I actually think that COVID was a good thing because the original guest list was 200 people, and we've done 4 times that tonight, 800, so very impressive, a lot of pent-up demand. Thank you to everyone who shared tribute to Charles, and a huge thanks to the co-chairs, Denise and Rita, for putting on this world-class event, 2 years in the making, and I can tell you this has Rita's imprint all over it. We are here to celebrate Birthright. We're here to celebrate Charles's milestone birthday. What a program, what a man. One would think this is easy. Stand up, thank all the amazing people, yes. That part, obvious. A huge thank you to all of you incredible donors, benefactors, lay leaders, and Birthright professionals. The funds you have raised, that have been raised tonight, are not donations. They are investments. They are investments into the future of Jewish peoplehood. You've heard the numbers, you've seen the results. The results, nay, the return on investment, have been an unmitigated success. arguably one of the most successful Israeli diaspora programs in history. So, that being said, how does one go on to celebrate such a distinguished, indefatigable, well-fed man like Charles? Well, I can assure you, with great difficulty, but I'm going to try. My name is Tony Cohen, and I was asked to speak tonight as my late mother, Andy, and Charles were two of the co-founders of Birthright Israel, along with Judy and Michael Steinhardt. Tonight, I'm here representing not only my mother, who I'm quite sure is smiling down on all of this, but my immediate family, my beautiful wife, Moira, my siblings, Pippa, my brother, Jeremy, his wife, Marcy, and their children, Danielle, Scott, and Talia. We've been proud supporters of Birthright since day one. Why? Well, we were told we had to be. But seriously, my siblings, step-siblings, and I were all brought up immersed in our parents' shared love of Israel and the Jewish people. Birthright has masterfully intertwined the two. I guess it's quite literally and somewhat figuratively, in some way, my birthright to be up here this evening. I can honestly say that Charles, this is a loved man. I mean, I know I love him. I mean, look at that punim. Tell me, who could not love that face? Saying Charles is a philanthropist is tantamount to calling Michael Jordan just another basketball player. Growing up, Charles always said that any schmuck, well, he actually said a different word, and seeing as Isabel already swore, I think I can probably use the real word. I wasn't sure if I was. Charles used to say, any asshole can write a check. That's easy. Let me tell you, Charles is not just any asshole. Who can write a check? He is so much more. Creating, innovating, disrupting, doing something different, leveraging resources, and building the right and perfect team. That has been his secret sauce. That is what differentiates the nice-to-haves from the game changers. And let me tell you, both Birthright and Charles are game changers. Tikkun Olam is about making the world a better place. Easy to say, almost impossible to do, except for a man like Charles. There is no way that Charles and Mom could have imagined what Birthright would become when it began over 20 years ago. Birthright embraces an entrepreneurial spirit and embodies Jewish values while nurturing a connection to the homeland. Baseball in Canada? Sure, no problem. 800,000 free trips to Israel? Why not? This is the way Charles has tackled his business and philanthropic endeavors throughout his career. Charles has been in my life for over 42 years. And when I was a young boy, I was assigned a school project to write about the man I admired most. I wrote about Charles. And if today I was tasked with the same project, that man would remain the same, Charles Bronfman. Tonight, we celebrate Birthright, and more importantly, we celebrate my stepfather, Charles, for making the world, specifically our Jewish world, a better place. Thank you. Charles, we now have something very special planned for you, a song that was written for you by an a cappella group, 613, to honor your involvement and contributions to Birthright. But before we do that, I would like to reintroduce Phil de Toledo on the stage.
In a moment, before we hear the song, we're going to hear remarks from Miriam Adelson. But before we do, I want to acknowledge that a little over a year ago, the world and the Jewish people lost a giant, Sheldon Adelson. Sheldon and Miriam have had an incredible impact on Birthright and have enabled hundreds of thousands to go on their Birthright journey. May Sheldon's memory be a blessing. Please watch Miriam's remarks. Thank you.
Shalom, friends. As you know, Taglit is Hebrew for discovery, and it was thanks to today's honoree that my beloved late husband, Sheldon, and I discovered this wonderful program. Charles, I remember that day so well. It was in 2006 when you visited our home to explain the idea which you and Michael Steinhardt had come up with for bringing young American Jews closer to Israel. and to one another. Sheldon and I instantly knew that your brainchild was a winner. With its free educational trips to Israel, Birthright would create hundreds of thousands of new allies and advocates for the Jewish state. It was an investment that would pay off for generations, enriching and informing Zionism everywhere. So it was with tremendous pride that he and I ended up becoming the program's major sponsors. We had no hesitation about this because from the very beginning, we trusted in your vision, Charles. We trusted in your commitment, your energy, your integrity. And we trusted in you, our esteemed friends and partner. Bless you, Charles. May you know many more years of nachas from Taglit Birthright. And thank you for bringing Sheldon and me aboard. And happy, happy birthday. All our love.
A free trip to Israel. Sounds crazy, no? But in less than 25 years of Birthright Israel, more than 800,000 Jewish young adults have enjoyed a transformational Jewish experience without breaking their banks. It isn't easy. You might ask, why do we continue to organize these trips if it's so difficult? We do it because Eretz Yisrael is our spiritual home. And how do we keep it going? By remembering that fostering a lifelong connection to Israel is more than our goal. It's the mission. The mission. The mission. The mission. The mission. The mission. Ooh, the mission. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, 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 ba-da-dum.
Who set the tone ever since the beginning, inspired with his vision, shown how much he cares, and who loves Mifgash, and at each mega event is Canadian, Jewish, and proud. Charles Bronfman, Charles Bronfman, ooh, Charles Bronfman, Charles Bronfman, Charles Bronfman, ooh, the mission, ba-da-da-dum, 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 ba-ba-ba-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-ba-ba-dum, ya-ba-ba-dum, ya-ba-ba-dum, ya-ba-ba-dum. Who has done the work in person and by phone? As Birthright's grown, their work has shown. Who has rallied families for our people's home, enabling Jewish kids to have the trips they took? Charles Bronfman and family, ooh, the mission. Charles Bronfman and family, ooh, the mission. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-ba-bum, 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 ba-ba-bum. 99 pioneers were there, big roles these families play. Just go and ask each CEO and all the leaders, the pioneers, ooh, the mission, the pioneers, ooh, the mission, ba-da-da-dum, ba-ba-bum, 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 ya-ba-bum, ya-ba-bum, and since the first 14, many donors have pitched in, and each donation, great or small, reveals the heart within. The donors, ooh, the mission. The donors, ooh, the mission. Ba-ba-ba-dum, ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. Charles Bronfman and family, the pioneers, the donors, the mission. Charles Bronfman and family, the pioneers, the donors, the mission.
Big hand for 3660, 613.
That was awesome.
That was great. So I guess we're supposed to continue the tradition. So tonight we've heard beautiful things. We were just very choked up by the past few, the video and the Tony speech. But, you know, we've done a lot of tributes to our dad, a lot of homage, but we thought we'd share a few unknown nuggets.
So this is Dad and Leo Kolber.
Whose children are here tonight as well.
Whose children are here at our golf club in Montreal. And there's a lesson to be learned from this photograph. And the lesson is that Jewish men over 20 really shouldn't jump because they hurt their backs when they landed. Now here's a second picture, and some of the family will understand this. We've done a lot of family trips on safari. Now, Dad doesn't smoke a pipe anymore, but this goes back to our safari years. And, you know, we learned a lot about the flora and fauna, about birds and animals, and, you know, the hornbills.
It was that lilac-breasted roller.
Oh, the lilac-breasted roller, yes. But there was also the very few, hardly ever seen, the bald-headed pipe smoker. Hasn't been seen in 25 years.
And as you all know, we had a beautiful message from the Prime Minister of Canada. Our father was such a proud Canadian, so much so as you could see on the ice rink and here as a young man. But he's now a Florida resident, like so many other Jews in this room.
Maybe some of his memories were a little frigid. Now, Dad was a great athlete as a young man. Well, in his mind he was. And he always loved baseball because regular-sized people could be really good at the game, like hockey, and unlike basketball and unlike football. But, you know, after a few tryouts that were failed, Dad realized that perhaps his skills were best used as an owner, like many in this room, like many tribe folk.
So a well-known businessman, you've heard, certainly a fantastic, unbelievable philanthropist. Dad realized that with Birthright, not only could he send a lot of kids to Israel, but he could actually become a rock star. Imagine that, people chanting his name and cheering after him as he stood on a stage at so many mega events at Birthright.
Yeah, the mega events were always amazing. But really, tonight is about thanking everyone, and mazel tov to everybody in this room. What an amazing tribute to a pretty amazing guy. Pops. Birthright is really the sum of all parts in Dad's Jewishness, his Jewish soul, his Jewish spirit, his Jewish heart, his love of young people, his love of Israel and abroad, his love of Jewish peoplehood, of Israel diaspora relations, his love and passion for the state of Israel. Birthright is really an embodiment of all these things and is really a statement of who he is and Dad's love for the world and the Jewish world and all the young people.
And to have seen what Dad's Birthright experience is, to have been with him at a mega event and to see the passion, the pride, to see the connection that he has and the love that he has for the Mifgash program of the connection that we've heard about tonight. It's really been heartwarming.
Looking back at Dad's 90 years, and now Dad did say this isn't going to be a eulogy, so we're just going to look forward to his next 90 years. And, you know, so much that he's accomplished has been through passion, and so much of that passion is deep-rooted in his value system. So we look along with today's and future generations at the next 90 years. We think of socio-political issues like Ukraine, like climate change, like Israel diaspora relations, major defining issues of today and tomorrow, and how Jews can play leading roles leading in Tikkun Olam and healing the world that we've done in the past, of course, and we will continue to do in the future. Birthright has planted over 800,000 seeds, Jewish seeds. We're referring to all the kids that have gone on trips. Not all will take root, of course, but going forward to have the impact, the ground must remain fertile, and planting those seeds and making those connections between the land of Israel and our climate crisis is something that we plan to help Birthright to achieve. We've learned from our dad, as he's learned from his parents, to step up and help tackle the pressing needs of our generation.
We're so proud to have learned these values, these shared family values: hard work and responsibility, respect for others, empathy, humility. And at 90, when one thinks of Charles Bronfman, who's almost 91, by the way, you think of all these values added together. A bigger-hearted man you will never find, a bigger mensch you will never find, and someone that we love very much to our core. That's why we're here tonight, walking directly in your footsteps, Dad. We're proud to be Canadian, we're proud to be Jewish, and we're proud to be your children.
Very, very proud.
Yes, and determined that our generation will rise to meet the challenges as you rose to meet the challenges of your generation.
So, Pops, thank you. Thank you for being modest, kind, and authentic. Thank you, most of all, for inspiring all of us, each and every one of us here this evening, very proudly, including the two of us, for striving to be the best people and the best Jews that we can be.
So we were honored to be asked to present you with a gift tonight from the Birthright Israel Foundation.
Yeah, it's big. It's not going to fit in the car, but we'll have it sent.
Thank you, Vanna White, over here. This piece was created by Mira Mylar, a contemporary glass artist based in Tel Aviv, and was commissioned for you. Jerusalem was chosen as the design theme for this evening, as you could see by the decor in the room, and the theme is the heart of this piece, as you are the heart behind this program. We're so proud to present you with this artwork and all you've done to help secure the Jewish future. We're reading this because we want to make sure we get this right.
You continue. You're doing a great job. I'll just give you a background.
Okay. The glasswork is designed as a wall, referencing the kotel, representing strength and memory for the Jewish people. The artist has incorporated, as you could see, the Taglit logo. There's an inscription in Hebrew, and I'm not going to say the word because I'm going to mess it up, and it tells us that we can never forget Jerusalem in good times and in bad. And you have helped create the entire generation of young Jewish adults that will always keep Jerusalem in their hearts.
Through this program, along with your co-founders, the other pioneers, you have changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of young Jews, many of whom are in the room with us today.
And on behalf of them, we want to thank you for everything you've done to transform Jewish future, and obviously to wish you a happy, happy birthday.
Almost 91 now, but mazel tov, Pops.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if we could please ask you to give a big round of applause for our dad, Charles Bronfman.
I have so much gratitude in my heart, and I'm in a terrible position because have you ever spent time, you write a speech, and you say, oh, it's going to be a hell of a good speech. And then you hear one speaker after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other express themselves, and by the time you stand up, gone. Every goddamn word you wrote has been said. Every thank you has been said. Everything has been said. So I'm not going to do, and my beloved Angela, who helps me every day of my life in getting things done. Well, we worked on this speech, but forget it. Where's Michael? Michael Steinhardt, where are you? I love you. You know, there are a few people without whom there would have been no Birthright. Michael, of course, is the key one. Michael and I and my late wife Andy, Tony and Pippa's and Jeremy's mother, we were at a party at the Israel Museum. And at that time, Judy Steinhardt was the chairman of the American Friends of the Israel Museum. She conned us into going. And while I'm sitting there more or less enjoying myself, I don't like big parties. This is an exception. I like small, intimate groups like this. And Michael came over and he said, I'd like to talk with you. So we went outside, and there was a man, I don't know if many of you will remember him, certainly some of the Israelis will, named Yossi Balin. Yossi was, I think, deputy finance minister at the time, but he had a whole thing about Israel and about Americans always saying little Israel and little Israel. And he had this idea that all 17-year-old kids, Jewish kids, should have a voucher to go to Israel for an indeterminate period. And he spoke to me about it, and he spoke to Michael about it. I laughed it off because I said, there's nobody going to pay for that. And Michael sat with me on the wall overlooking the Valley of the Cross, and said, what do you think of Yossi's idea? So I said, well, it's an audacious plot to ruin the Jewish people financially. There began our negotiations. And Michael and I, and together with Yitz Greenberg, Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, who's in Israel tonight and couldn't be here, and my dear friend, colleague, and guru, Jeff Solomon, we sat together for a year to figure out Birthright Israel. And we never raised our voices. You know, I understand that Mr. Steinhardt had a temper at one point. Those of you in the finance business might have been told that, I don't know. But Michael and I have never raised our voices to each other. We are totally different except for our hairdo in every way you can imagine. And yet our fondness for each other and our partnership has been so wonderful. As an example, one day in June of 1999, in our office in Jerusalem, Shimshon Shoshani, the great and wonderful first CEO of Birthright. Shimshon, stand up. Shimshon, where are you? Stand up, Shimshon. He's over where? Oh, Shimshon. Come. There he is. God bless him. Where are you going? Hey? You're gone. That's it. Goodbye. He wanted to leave. Shimshon was now the CEO of Birthright. He had come over to New York at the behest of Janet Aviad, who ran my philanthropy in Israel. And Michael and I were to interview him. In effect, Shimshon interviewed Michael and me to see if we were worthy of his working with us. He decided for some unknown reason that we were. Anyway, he goes back, and now it's in June of 1999, and he says to us and our colleagues who were there, all standing up, well, gentlemen, do we proceed with the project? And I looked at him, and Michael looked at him, and I said, well, when do we have to decide? He said, this afternoon. Well, why? We're not going to start the project until December. He said, yes, but you have to understand, we have to line up buses, hotel rooms, we have to get tour guides, we have to, Well, what do you think? Well, our colleagues are all saying, don't do it, you don't have any money except what you guys have put up. You don't have the government of Israel on side, you don't have the Jewish federations. Don't do this. One of us said, but we promised. That was the beginning of Birthright, right then and there. Except that a few days later, we go to a meeting in Shimshon's office. And there's a nice booklet and everything else, and there's an agenda. And one of the words of the agenda caught Michael's eye and caught my eye, and it said budget. Well, said I, I'm sitting with one of the great financial gurus of this country. So therefore, Michael will know all about the budget. Michael said to himself, Bronfman is surrounded by lawyers and accountants. They'll clue him in about all the budget. Truth of the matter is, neither of us had looked. And then Michael is sitting there, and he turns this color, chalk white. And he looks at me and he said, Charles, there's nobody I'd rather go broke with than you. And indeed, we financed, he and I financed the first trips that winter. I want you to know one thing about Birthright. We worked like hell on it, all of us, the planners, the executors, and those who did both. It is not really an accident that things have been as good as they were. We hired the best research firm that we knew that would give us honest research. And that was at Brandeis University under the direction of Professor Len Sachs, who is here tonight. We had a woman named Elizabeth Sokolsky, Liz Sokolsky, who also is here tonight. Liz? Come. Liz Sokolsky also joined us on day one. And she did, what the hell did you do anyway?
I did whatever you told me to do.
Okay. She was in charge of all the trip organizers. Now she's the director of North America for Taglit. And she's never missed a day. She's a wonderful woman. We had others. Of course, Gidi was, as he said, he was number one. But look, I could go on all night. I got to figure out where the heck I am because this is... As we went along, we did good fundraising, and we managed to get up to 25,000 to 30,000 young adults a year. And we were stuck there. And then along came the Adelsons. And I remember meeting with Sheldon Adelson, and when I asked him for a number, he said he doesn't play with peanuts. Okay. His peanut and my peanut were two different kinds of peanuts. And he and Dr. Miriam fell in love with the project. And at that time, we had a pretty long waiting list. And they said, the waiting list will end. And through their generosity, it ended. That was the end of that. Mary, come on, stand up. One real standing ovation for Mary. Now, before the Adelsons came along, we were a pretty damn good organization. We, 25, 30,000 young adults a year, $100 million odd budget, pretty serious. But all of a sudden, we were now the most important educational platform in the Jewish world, because now we could take up to 50,000. We never made it yet. We did make 48,000, right, Gidi? Next year, he says. Next year, we'll do the 50. So thank you. You're just great. And we were all saddened with Sheldon's death, but Mary, you're the most wonderful woman. You just keep on driving it through. Thank you. So all I'm going to say now is what we set out to do. I think one of the reasons that Birthright has been the success it has is because of rather an old adage which says, keep it simple, sweetheart. KISS. We did not have huge thoughts of winning the world. What we hoped for, without having anybody beating anybody on the head about this, we hoped that during the trip, the young adults would decide that they liked being Jewish, that they were happy to be Jewish, that they identified with the Jewish people, and that they had a positive and emotional relationship with Israel and Israelis. Now, how did that turn out? Those are the only three things. And there is nothing about either religion. If you want to be Jewish, do it your way. Not my way, not the highway, your way. If you want to do that. If you say this is all a bunch of nonsense and they're blowing my mind with a lot of PR nonsense and crap, well, okay, goodbye. But here's what's happened, and it's generally every year. 90%, these numbers are mind-boggling, and Len Sachs would tell you that they're kosher. They're honest numbers. 90% say that the trip was either very good or excellent. Now you can say, well, what the hell? It's a free trip. Why shouldn't it be good or excellent? Okay, but 85% felt that they had a life-changing experience. 68% felt part of a worldwide Jewish community, and 74% feel a deep connection with Israel and Israelis. Those are numbers that come through year after year after year, and they're monitored year after year after year. So sometimes, I guess, when you don't shoot for the moon, but you just say, let's get certain values and try to get those done, sometimes it works. And it worked. The other thing that I have always thought is that united we stand, divided we fall. We're a small group of people, we choose. We're back to about 16 million now. Is it that many? We were 16 million before the Holocaust. I think we're back there now. But there are two great geographical locations of Jews. One is Israel, one is North America. And it seemed to me that if Israelis and North Americans, despite their political and social differences, if they could have empathy for each other, if they could find out that beneath all the peripheral nonsense, who they really were, that they were really brothers and sisters, that it was by accident that many who came from Eastern Europe settled in Israel or in Latin America or in Australia or in Canada, and they could be today's Israelis who came from the same areas, that maybe they'd start to understand each other. Yeah, listen, you know, Sheldon Adelson and I didn't have the same political views at all, but we both loved Israel, we both loved the Jewish people. The question was how to express it. So I thank you all. I thank you all for being here. I thank particularly Rita and Denise. You did such an outstanding job, you two. Just incredible. I thank my family for their generosity in spirit, in financial means. Yes, I hit you guys over the head pretty good. But I thank everybody who's been here tonight, and all I can hope is that as Birthright goes on, that 90% of the people will say that they're happy being Jewish, that they relate to the Jewish world, and they have a warm and emotional relationship with Israel and Israelis. Thank you all so very, very much.